The astrology of the next few weeks, you guys, is looking wild. We have a whole laundry list of major, hugely impactful astrological events happening now through the end of April. Not only are we already into eclipse season, but we have a Mercury retrograde in Aries coming up that will be activating and reactivating the eclipse energies. We also, of course, have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which is one of the biggest, most impactful, significant energies that's going to be happening throughout the entire year of 2024. And yes, we are going to be having a major total solar eclipse on April 8th as well. And of course, we're going to guide you through all of this in the next few videos, but today we're going to be focusing on the upcoming penumbral lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra, which comes exact on March 25th, but is already packing a punch, you guys. We are already feeling this energy. The first eclipse of the season is more like a prelude than anything else. It's going to be illuminating, as a lunar eclipse does, where we've come out of balance and highlighting the need to recreate a sense of equilibrium before the craziest astrological period of the entire year really takes hold. That being said, eclipses are always a karmic period of fated transition and synchronistic change, and this eclipse is no exception to the rule. And in typical eclipse fashion, even though some things are being illuminated that we didn't see prior to this period, even though it's the prelude and we're getting a taste of what's to come, there's something being eclipsed around this time period that we can't see fully. And so whatever it is that's unfolding, whatever it is that's taking hold, just know that you don't have the whole picture just yet. With this South Node eclipse in the sign of Libra, it's especially important to pay attention to signs, synchronicities, messages that come through, but especially unfamiliar circumstances, situations, and events that feel strangely familiar, as if we've already experienced them or as if it's something that we already have some sort of energy or connection to. With the South Node in the mix, those hit hardest can expect major deja vu, along with old opportunities that come back around for you to revisit that always feel undeniably preordained. In this video, we'll cover everything you need to know to navigate the first eclipse, including a forecast, of course, for all 12 signs. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all of the upcoming forecasts that I'm going to be providing to help you navigate through all of the major paradigm shifting astrological energies that are coming up in these next few weeks. You should probably also follow me on Instagram at Astrology with Heather because that's where I'm going to be providing smaller chunks of insight throughout the entire eclipse season, throughout the entire next few weeks to help you navigate day to day as well. Now let's get into the overview of what this eclipse will mean for us more generally and collectively, which is super important to listen to, by the way, so please don't skip this because this is going to provide an important context for the energy that we're going to be getting into when we do the forecast for all 12 signs. So first things first. This is a penumbral lunar eclipse. When it comes to the spectrum of intensity and strength of the eclipses and how impactful they are on us personally and collectively, penumbral lunar eclipses are a little bit on the weak side. That doesn't mean that major transitions can't happen. That doesn't mean that this isn't important to pay attention to. It just means that it's not going to be the big, crazy upheaval that you'll see with something like a total solar eclipse, which is what we're having coming up on April 8th. And we might already be feeling some of the energy of the total solar eclipse, even coming into this first eclipse on the 25th. And there's going to be a lot of activations of this energy throughout. And so don't discount this penumbral lunar eclipse just because it's on the weak side, but just know that the actual impact of this particular eclipse energy is not quite as, grandiose as some other eclipse energies. This eclipse is going to come exact on March 25th of 2024, and I would say its most active periods are going to be about 5 days before and 5 days after. And so anywhere from the 20th to the 30th, that's where you're going to be seeing this particular window activated the most. But as with all eclipses, you have all of these periods of major activation that come up that re-emphasize the energies that we're going to be describing in today's video. And I'll go through when those periods are going to be, of course, as we go through this kind of overview of the eclipse energy. So the main thing that separates this eclipse from the one on April 8th is the trine that the moon will be making with Pluto. And so a lunar eclipse is always a full moon energy. And so it's like an amped up, more faded, more synchronistic, much more significant full moon energy where something is culminating, something is being illuminated, something is being brought to the forefront of our attention that wasn't there prior. And the culmination that this eclipse is bringing is connected to the solar eclipse that we had in Libra back in October. So thinking back to October of 2023, if you had any major pivots, major turning points, major life-changing experiences that were initiated at that point, this lunar eclipse is going to take it to the next level. This lunar eclipse is going to be the next saga of that story for you. And so thinking back and journaling on what themes came up, and even if you didn't have a major like crazy transition or a wild experience at that time, it's still important to make note of dreams that you were having, symbols that were coming up for you in your thoughts, in your meditations, important messages that came up that you thought were significant but maybe didn't turn into something at that time, at least, because maybe this time around it is going to turn into something much more significant, much more impactful that could turn your life upside down or take you in a new direction that you are meant to be moving into by allowing you to kind of let go of something, because that's what this south node energy is. So it's a full moon and a culmination, but it's a culmination that leads to kind of an unraveling or an ending of some kind because of that south node energy. The south node is always about the past, what's familiar, what we've already been there, done there with. Sometimes it can bring back around energies from the past, like opportunities that we talked about at the start of this video from the past that you need to reintegrate. It can bring up talents, gifts, special skills that maybe you carried over even from a past lifetime that you need to reintegrate in a selfless and, more spiritual way in this lifetime as a result of what comes up, what's shown to you at the time of this eclipse. And so this is a significant energy in a lot of ways. But this full moon eclipse is going to be in a trine with Pluto in Aquarius, which Pluto just moved into Aquarius just a few weeks ago for the second time. And this is going to be all about exposing the truth. And so, of course, with the eclipses, there is going to be something that is occulted or hidden from us that we have no way of accessing until the eclipse has passed us. But at the same time, there is some sort of exposure of something or illumination of something that has been left hidden or left unsaid. It's kind of like the truth comes out and you're able to see it and you can't ignore it anymore. And this truth will lead you to make changes that you can't possibly know the exact outcome with until the eclipse season is past. So anything that's initiated at the time of an eclipse, regardless of whether or not it's initiated by your own hand, usually has an outcome that is different from what you expect because of the occultation, the thing that's being hidden that you have no way of knowing right now. There's no way for you to know it. Don't even try. It'll come up, it'll change things, and you'll have to kind of just roll with the punches. And that's not always a bad thing, you guys. It gives you what you need because it is the eclipse energy. The north and south nodes are these energies of our destiny, our fate, something that our soul needs in its evolutionary process. That's kind of the theory behind the north and south nodes. And it does tend to hold weight in practice if you experience it that way. When you look back on things that happen during the eclipse cycles, it's kind of like that was nuts or that was terrible in the moment, but like 1 year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, however long into the future, you're like, wow, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here doing this thing. I wouldn't be here doing that thing. Like my life would not be where it is right now. And I'm actually maybe grateful for that. And so keep that in mind as we go through this, because there is going to be a lot of uncertainty, especially as we get deeper and deeper into the eclipse season and closer to that start of April and even into the end of April, just because of all of the crazy astrology we have going on here. But I do like that Pluto trine to the moon. It brings a certain level of like something bubbling up to the surface, a certain level of discernment that we might not otherwise have during this eclipse. And so that can be very, very helpful. This is also going to be a period where the Chiron North Node conjunction, which came exact at the end of February, start of March, is going to be highlighted actively by the sun and by this eclipse. So on the opposite end of the moon in the eclipse is the sun. That's what a full moon is, and that's what a lunar eclipse is. And in connection with the sun will be a kind of wide, loose conjunction with Chiron, the North Node, and Mercury. And so this stellium in Aries is going to be important because this is going to be a gentler activation of something that's going to become much bigger and much more in your face. You can't ignore it when we have the actual total solar eclipse on April 8th. So that's kind of why this is the prelude. The North Node conjunct Chiron denotes some sort of fated healing, a fated healing process potentially around trauma, wounds, vulnerabilities, insecurities. Things that are kind of innate in us that we don't feel good about, that either stem from early experiences in our life, or maybe it's something even that we're born with sometimes. But that Chiron energy typically feels uncomfortable. And so we're going to have to embrace the discomfort, move into the discomfort, heal through the discomfort in order to move into the path that we are intended to move into in this lifetime. And we're going to be going all in on this come April 8th. So this is kind of showing us something about that from the opposite end of the spectrum. It's going to also highlight the need to take into account the needs of other people and to take into account our past experiences as we're plunging headfirst into new territory at the start of April. And so that's another thing to kind of just think about here. And with Mercury in the mix, this is kind of a big deal because Mercury is going to be stationing to go retrograde on April 1st, which we'll talk about in a video next weekend. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. But it's going to be going back and forth, hitting all these different planets and points and activating and reactivating some of the eclipse angles and conjunctions. But it's actually stationing on April 1st in an exact conjunction with the North Node, and it's going to be highlighting that North Node Chiron conjunction again. So it's going to feel very eclipsy as we get closer and closer to it. But Mercury is already a part of this energy when it comes to this first eclipse, and Mars will have just entered into Pisces on March 22nd. And so that's important too, because the solar eclipse energy is being paired with the two malefic planets, Saturn and Mars, in Pisces coming into a conjunction with one another. That is going to be troublesome for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. We're already starting to inch our way into that energy at the time of this first eclipse. Again, it's kind of like a preview. It's a gentler preview so we can get prepared, so we can get ready for what we're going to need to put work into when it comes to the eclipse season. On a collective level, I should mention that the last solar eclipse that happened in Libra, it was a solar annular eclipse that occurred on October 24th of 2023, which is the second most potent type of eclipse. That cut right through the United States, kind of horizontally. This eclipse is cutting right through vertically. And so there's a lot of energy and talk around the fact that this is going to be impacting the United States pretty heavily, and the United States' interests in other areas of the world. And so we had this eclipse come exact in October. There was a heating up of, war and conflict where the US is connected to it in one way or another. And so there could be another kind of energy to this saga that's coming up around this eclipse because it is the culmination, but especially as we get into the April 8th eclipse that will cut through the United States again. And so it is important. And also, if you are somebody who lives in the United States, because the eclipse is coming right over us and it's going to be visible here, and the more visible it is where you're at, the more impactful it'll be for you personally. But in general, if the eclipse path comes over the place where you live or you're actually at, so some people actually just drive and go to these eclipses. Maybe don't do that if it's hitting your chart in a not very nice way, you guys. You don't want to potentize an eclipse that's already impacting your chart in a chaotic sort of way. But, the average person, the normies in our society don't know this. So they all travel to the eclipse. They don't look at their charts first. And, I don't think that's a good thing. So if you are in the path of the eclipse and it doesn't look very nice for you in your birth chart, maybe leave the path of the eclipse for that weekend or for that time period. If it looks really nice for you, by all means, travel and go sit under it. Whatever feels good to you. But that's just kind of another thing that I always think is interesting. And finally, because we are kind of covering between now and the next eclipse a little bit here, I want to mention that we're going to have a few different things going on here. So there's going to be a big activation of both eclipses occurring March 18th through 20th. So right before this eclipse comes exact, I'm putting this out before that period for a reason, because you're going to be feeling eclipsy at the start of next week. So it's because Mercury is going to be coming through for the first time before it stations to go retrograde. It's going to conjunct the true and mean nodes on the 18th and 19th, and then it's going to hit Chiron. And it's going to pass over the point of the annular solar eclipse on April 8th. So there's going to be an activation, a trigger occurring there. There's also going to be another trigger occurring between now and the time of the annular, or total solar eclipse, actually, on April 4th. That's because the sun will conjunct the true and mean nodes on that day. So that's going to be a potent period of initiation into the eclipse energy. All right, so let's move on to the forecast for all 12 signs. But before we do, I just want to remind you guys to listen for your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign to get a more holistic overview of the energy for this entire eclipse period. Your rising sign will be the most predominant energy. Your sun sign will be secondary, and your moon sign is important to listen to as well, although this energy will be more internalized and subjective. And at the end of this video, make sure you stick around. So even if you're somebody who jumps past and just jumps to your sign, also listen to the very end, because we're going to be giving a preview, a little bit of coverage to some of the major impactful energies that I'm going to be covering in future videos over the next few weeks, including the energy of the big solar eclipse, the Jupiter conjunction to Uranus, and the upcoming Mercury retrograde. For Aries and for Aries rising, while this eclipse energy really centers around the sign of Aries and originates from your first house, it really is not all about you. With the full moon eclipse happening in the sign of Libra, this is your 7th house. This is about your relationships. This is about coming back into balance between your needs and the needs of other people. There's been a lot of focus on what you desire, what you're moving into, your own self-interest, your own personal development. And for an Aries, this is actually a time where you get to be selfish, and not that you normally feel guilty about something like that. It's important that you are. However, at the time of this full moon, at the time of this eclipse, it's an important period to take a step back and look at how what you're doing impacts the people that you love and care about. This is also a time where very karmic, fated, destined, important connections can come into your life for the first time, or back into your life for the second, third, fourth time, who knows. So this could be a time when old relationships, romantic or otherwise, could come back around for you to revisit. That could be because you have to reintegrate that energy back into your life in some way. Or that could be because the karma is past, the cycle is over, and you need to kind of close those doors. You need to kind of get that final energy out of the way. There's something that still needs to happen in order for you to move on. If it's a new connection coming in right now, and that, again, it doesn't have to be romantic, especially for Aries, this could be new friendships coming in with that really beautiful trine to Pluto in your 11th house. And if they do come in, they're going to feel extra intense, extra important, and the connection is going to run very, very deep. These are not surface level connections that you're making with people now and through the entire eclipse period. This is an energy of something that was preordained, predestined to happen before you even incarnated into this lifetime. This is an energy of a current life connection with somebody that you already knew prior to this life. And even if you don't frame it that way, even if you don't believe in past, future, present life, whatever, it's still going to feel familiar and oddly synchronistic. It's going to be like, wow, I feel like I already know this person. I feel like I have this deep connection to this new friend, to this new coworker, to this new colleague, to this new romantic partner even, that just defies explanation based on what I've experienced in this reality, in this lifetime. And so that can be important as well. Just know that whatever is going on in terms of relationship dynamics right now, which are changing, definitely there's going to be a change in dynamics in relationships, that you can't see the whole picture or the whole outcome right now in this moment. There's something that's being hidden from you, something that's being occulted at the time of this eclipse that you're not going to fully understand and be able to embrace until a few weeks out. And when it does happen, it's going to change the trajectory of things just a little bit. But that likely will be a good thing. It'll be like either you have to move on from a certain connection in order to embrace what you need for yourself, or it could be that this connection isn't exactly what it seems, but it's something that's even better or even more important for your soul's evolution. For Taurus and for Taurus rising, this energy is happening in your 6th house with the full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra. And again, this is a south node eclipse, so this represents the culmination of something that maybe was initiated back in October of 2023, involving your health, involving, service, or you having to take on some sort of caregiver role, involving changes in your work, or a loss of a job even could have been part of this as well for some Taurus people. But this is kind of like the next phase of whatever initiated or was seeded at that time. This could be a powerful time for advancement in the workplace by taking back on an old role, or by incorporating or reincorporating old talents, gifts, opportunities, things that maybe you let fall by the wayside or were a part of your past that you didn't think were coming with you into the future, but now you have to reintegrate. And whatever that means for you, whatever that is for you, will become very, very apparent at the time of this full moon. But what won't be apparent is the outcome of you exercising and utilizing your gifts in this way. That's the energy where it's not fully apparent just yet. There's something that's being hidden, being occulted, that you can't quite see, that could be impacting the outcome when it comes to your work, when it comes to your day-to-day work routines and habits, when it comes to your career path as a whole. But because this full moon is in such a beautiful trine with Pluto on your in your 10th house, this could be a huge time of something fated that comes along on a smaller scale, or comes back around on a smaller scale, that creates a lot of momentum and a lot of power and advancement into positions of power when it comes to your career. And even if you're not working, this could be you taking on maybe a leadership role or a more powerful role in the coming weeks and months as a result of this energy. If you're somebody that's working through some sort of healing crisis, some sort of health issue, this could be the next phase where you're able to let go of something is illuminated that you need to let go of or move on from that is impacting your health. This could also be an energy of you taking on too much responsibility as a caregiver or in a caregiver role for other people, and it's going to become much more apparent. There's a lot going on behind the scenes for you right now, Taurus, and this day-to-day busyness, day-to-day heaviness, this responsibility and routine could be taking up too much mental space and physical space in your life, when really you should be focusing on, your own self-care, and also just kind of like the stuff that's going on beneath the surface. There's something bubbling up right now that you can't maybe put your finger on that needs to be addressed, and it'll become much more apparent as we come into that that new moon energy, that total solar eclipse in the sign of Aries on April 8th. So definitely make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss that one. But in terms of this energy, the other thing that it could bring about is fated connections to coworkers from the past, people in your workplace or in your field that the connections feel very familiar, even though they are unfamiliar people. Or it could be some sort of fated occurrence, some sort of synchronistic occurrence involving pets or animals that come into your life or come back into your life at this time. And so that's what's going on for Taurus. For Gemini and Gemini rising, this full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra is occurring in your 5th house, which is the house of love, romance. It's the house of sex and sexuality. It's the house of play and fun and hobbies and interests and passions. All of these things could be subject to karmic changes and predestined upheavals that could throw you in a new direction, but that could be a good thing. This is also the house that represents children. And so for those of you who have children, there could be fated kind of synchronistic opportunities that come come up that are highlighted for you or for your children, especially when it comes to education, especially when it comes to higher education. If you have a child that is kind of in that age range where they're already in college or thinking about college, this could be a time where some sort of new development comes up that could propel them into something really excellent, something really important. They could be very focused on their higher education or the potential for higher education at this time, and that can be very fruitful. However, the outcome of this is not going to be exactly what you think it's going to be or what they think it's going to be, so keep that in mind. That doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. It just means that there's some uncertainty, even if you feel certain about where this is headed. And for you, this could be literally higher education that's coming up for you in something that you're deeply and truly passionate about, something that you love and that has been a part of you for quite some time, but maybe you haven't had the ability to embrace it or go all in. Now's the time where you have to come back around and revisit the things that you love to do. This is a very artistic energy too, so it could be something around creativity, artistic expression, or beauty that you want to kind of come back into balance with. And so for Gemini rising people in particular, this is an interesting energy around romance and sexuality. And so old romantic love affairs, flings, things that were not that serious could come back around. You could have a text message or a DM from somebody from your past. And it could be because you need to bring them back into your life, probably not for, a big period of time, but for a season and a reason, or because you need to wrap things up, close those doors and move on, because that's what the South Node represents. And then for Cancer and for Cancer rising, this full moon penumbral lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra is happening in your 4th house, which is the house of home, family, property, real estate, and your roots. There's been a lot of energy and a lot of focus on career development, career changes, what's going on out there externally. And this is a time to kind of bring it back down home, bring it back down behind the scenes. There's going to be a lot more need to focus on what's going on in your immediate environment, what's going on in your family dynamic and family relationships, because those are going to be highlighted. This could also be where maybe an estranged family member or somebody who you've lost contact with or you don't connect with very often could come back around, and you might need to reintegrate that energy or deal with it in a way that feels very important, very synchronistic, very fated. This could also be where past life experiences involving family bubble up into the present, which can be a little harder to objectively observe and prove, but that can be something that's going on here. There's also a really strong energy around... There's also a very strong energy for Cancers around ancestral patterns and generational patterns that maybe you want to let go of or move away from. So thinking about the patterns that your parents have upheld, the types of cycles that they've gone through time and time again that maybe you don't want to repeat on their behalf. This is a really great time to kind of work on that, work through it, move past it, or even confront your family about it and kind of get more input or insight, so that way you can break free, so you can break loose, so you can do something different with your life as a result. This energy could bring big changes involving your home, very literally, your property, your place of living. And so some of you might be moving, especially as we get into that next eclipse, and especially if it's related to a career change or a job change. So a lot of Cancers probably changing things up in their home life, in their living experience, or very literally in their place of living as a result of work demands or new work opportunities. And that could even be something like either working from home or having to let go of working from home and going back to a physical workspace. For Leo and Leo rising, this energy is hitting you a lot more pleasantly than a lot of the other signs on both ends. And so the eclipse that's happening on April 8th is going to be a little bit nicer to you, Leo. So lucky Leo, and definitely subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the forecast on that in a couple of weeks, or the Mercury retrograde one, because that's hitting you in all sorts of really powerful but really positive ways. And this full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra is also hitting you in a very beautiful, powerful way, especially when it comes to communication and connection in relationships. This is where you're going to deepen your connection in important relationships in a very fated, synchronistic, and powerful way. This is also an energy where you might be thinking about, learning something or going back to school. It's kind of like taking something that you've already understood or learned about from the past and bringing it back around into the present and doing it again or doing it in a different way. It could also be an energy of you wanting to teach or communicate, especially one-on-one one-on-one with people about something that you already have mastery over because you've done it and done it again, and maybe you've even done it in your past lives. This is also a time where communication that comes in right now, messages that come in, and emails, phone calls, text messages, snail mail even, are extra important, especially around the time of March 25th when this eclipse is exact. And so you're going to want to pay close attention to actual physical messages and communications that are coming in, because they might take on an importance that's greater than what you can understand right now, because there's something that's being eclipsed that you can't quite see about these important insights. And speaking of insights, your own brain will be the source of important ideas and messages and downloads and inspirations that will become much more important as the weeks go on with all of the crazy astrology that we're having. And so again, pay attention. This is the prelude to something that's super important. Also, if you had a lot of changes that went on back in October around things like short distance travel, vehicles, communication, education, community, your neighbors, your neighborhood, your connections with other people, this is going to be the time where the next phase of that is culminating. And then for Virgo and for Virgo rising. So for Virgos, money is on your mind right now. There is major transition, major change energy going on in all the areas of your chart that are related to finance. And this full moon is in your second house. So this could bring up, or bring back around, I should say, old opportunities to create wealth, to make money, to harbor wealth in some way, to save money, to do something important with your savings. It could also be, very literally, that there's an important expense that comes up or an important opportunity for a major purchase that you thought about making in the past, or maybe even something that came up back in October of 2023 that's coming back around and now you need to take action on it. If you did make a major purchase or had a major financial or monetary transition or change that came up in a very fated, synchronistic, very important way back in October, this is where everything related to that is going to culminate. You're going to start to see the results, good, bad, ugly, whatever. It depends on what changes you made and what else is going on in your chart. But there's something connected to October involving finances that's very important right now, that's coming back around, that you need to pay attention to. This could also be a really important time where you can hone in on a work opportunity or a project or some sort of short-term contract involving your work that could bring more momentum into your financial area of your chart. But there is going to be change in your financial situation over the next few weeks. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. What's being illuminated right now is kind of the prelude to that, so you can get your ducks in a row and prepare and plan for it. For Libra and Libra rising, this full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra is happening for you in your sign. This is impacting you more personally. There's been a lot of energy lately around healing old wounds and dealing with issues pertaining to relationships. A lot of new developments, a lot of changes in relationships, and that's not going away. That's going to get much bigger in the next few weeks. So definitely make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss the forecast on that. But in this particular moment, in this particular eclipse, you're bringing it back to you. What do you want? What do you need? What do you desire? How can you balance out the needs of your partner, the needs of your friends, the needs of your coworkers, the needs of the other people in your life that you love and care about, with your own needs, with what you desire, with what your soul came here to express? And what do you need to let go of in terms of selfishness, in terms of the things that you're holding on to that you think need to be a part of you that are not a part of you anymore? This is a time of shedding your old skin. Something was reset back in October of 2023 in a lot of areas of your life, because this is going to be impacting you very personally when it comes to your life path, your major life themes, who you are and the way you show up in the world. Also, this is impacting you in your career, your public standing, your home life, and very literally your physical location maybe, and in the dynamics in your relationships. Something probably occurred in October that impacted all of these things. Whatever that was for you, this is the next phase where it's culminating and you're seeing the results of it. And some of the results you're going to really love, especially when it comes to kind of the romantic entanglements that maybe came up around that time. Some of these results you're not going to love so much, and you're going to want to move on from and let go of. This is about a karmic cutting of cords. And so anything that you have personally tied yourself to, that you've tied your name to, that is not aligned with the path that you're moving into, in combination or in communication or in collaboration with other people, that's something that you might need to think of, unraveling at this time. For Scorpio rising, you've had a lot of change going on when it comes to your work, your health, and your day-to-day routines, and now is a time to kick back and relax, at least for a moment. This lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra is highlighting the need to pull yourself out of your day-to-day reality, to take some time for solitude, contemplation. Take some time to kind of just reset a little bit, because there's been a lot going on and there's a lot that you're moving forward with when it comes to your work, when it comes to changes that you want to make for yourself in your health, when it comes to the way that you want your day-to-day work and your day-to-day reality to look. And right now it doesn't look like that. It looks like a lot of upheaval. It looks like a lot of transition. It looks like things are a little bit all over the place. Taking a step back will help you to see things much more clearly, so that way when we get into the eclipse of April 8th, the big one, the total solar eclipse that's happening in your 6th house, you will be prepared. And make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss the forecast for that or the Mercury retrogrades. But as for this particular eclipse, this full moon energy, this is a time for you to spend some time in meditation, spend some time in contemplation. This is a really important time for you to release and let go of a lot of things in your life that you know are not serving you anymore. The South Node represents moving on from something, not just in this lifetime, but something that you've been connected to for many, many lifetimes potentially. And the 12th house is connected to past life experiences as well. It's also connected to dreams and your kind of altered states of consciousness beyond waking reality. And so you might be getting a lot of strange messages and important information coming through symbology in your dreams. This is the time to keep a dream journal. I know people get upset. They're like, dream journals? I was expecting more than that from this forecast. Well, you can leave then. Because I swear this is so important right now. The information that comes to you in your dreams is going to prepare you for the crazy chaos that's to come with all of the eclipse energies, with the Jupiter conjunction to Uranus, with everything that's coming up in the next few weeks. Count yourself lucky that my recommendation for you is dream journals and that you're not going through some sort of crazy other type of upheaval. But this could also mean disrupted sleep, where your sleep patterns are a little all over the place around this time, and especially at the time of the full moon. This could also mean that you're getting downloads, you're getting visions, you're getting impressions, you're getting insights that come to you in the form of daydreams, imagination, visions that come to you in times of solitude, in times of quiet, in times of meditation. That could be part of this energy too. This is showing you what you need to move on from, so you can move into what you need to move into when the bigger eclipse energies take hold, which we're going to be talking about in the next few weeks. Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. For Sagittarius, this energy is happening in your 11th house with the full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra. And this is actually a very important time for you to make really important connections and have really important communications that are important beyond what you understand or can recognize even right now in this moment. Very fated, very karmic connections are coming up for you in your friendships. There might be new friends coming into the mix, new networks, new people coming into your life that are unfamiliar because you just met them, but they feel strangely familiar, strangely important. It feels like you're already comfortable with them in some way, or you already know them in some way. If this happens for you, these connections are super, super crucial, and pay attention to what goes on there, because this is going to lead into something that will become much more important as we get deeper and deeper into the eclipse season. These people are here for a reason. This could also be a time where old connections come back around. So people from your past, especially old friends that maybe you've lost contact with, maybe you've moved past that friendship in one way or another, or at least you thought you did, but that person comes back around, or you feel this intense pull to reach out and reconnect. Again, if that happens, that's happening for a reason, because this person needs to come back into your life either for the moment, so that way you can, work through something or move past something or close that cycle with this person in this lifetime, or it's because you need to reintegrate them. It's time for them to come back into your life because there's something more you need to do together as a team or as a group or as a collective. This is also a really important time where connections can be made in your immediate environment or in your community that take on a faded importance. This could be connections with neighbors, this could be connections with some sort of community group or organization. Whatever it is that's coming up for you, pay attention, because this again is going to be very significant when it comes to the big transitions that you're going to be making over these next few weeks. And definitely make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on everything that we're going to be covering about those transitions in the next few weeks. For Capricorn and Capricorn rising, you've had a lot going on behind the scenes, behind closed doors, when it comes to your family life, your family dynamic, your home, your living situation, all of those types of things. But now you need to pull yourself out of that to focus more on your career and public reputation and how that either supports or doesn't support your goals when it comes to your life behind the scenes, your life after work. Are you feeling like you have a good work-life balance? Are you feeling like you can give your family the time, the devotion, the attention, the energy that they deserve? If not, now's the time to think about letting go of something. There's something that you need to move past here in order to create a better future for yourself when it comes to your career, and especially when it comes to your finances. If you had a big career change or a big kind of upheaval or shift that came up for you or started for you around October of 2023, now's a time where it's coming to this culmination point, and there's something here that maybe you need to take with you and you need to kind of continue on with, but there's also something here that you need to let go of, to purge, to move on from, in order to create the life that you desire and you deserve for yourself, for your family, when it comes to your place of living, when it comes to your peace of mind outside of work. And so that's very, very important. And it looks like the financial situation is there. So if there's a change that comes up or an old opportunity that comes back around that feels more comfortable to you than what you're dealing with in the present moment, and the financial situation of that change actually looks pretty good, this is a decent time to take it. The outcome is not going to look exactly like what you think it will. That's something to kind of make note of. There are circumstances going on behind your awareness and outside of your control involving your career path here. And it could even be that you get fired, but the money's there, right? And the savings are there, or the investments are there to see it through until the next thing comes up. I'm not saying that everyone watching this is going to get fired, but if it happens, it's almost like a relief. It's like, oh, thank God, because I was going to quit that job, or I just can't deal with this anymore. And, whatever I need is here. And now I can focus on this situation with my family for a few weeks and then get back into the rat race later. But yeah, for you guys, there's going to be something going on here. Career is a bigger focus around the time of this eclipse. And then for Aquarius and Aquarius rising. For Aquarius, this full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra is happening in your 9th house, which is the house of adventure. It's the house of higher education and higher wisdom. It's the type of wisdom you gain through your experience, and you might have a lot of very interesting new experiences or adventures coming back around at this time. This is a time where an old educational opportunity for some sort of higher learning could come back around into the mix so you can reintegrate it. This could be a time where old wisdom comes in handy and you're able to either teach what you know to other people or share it with the world in some way. This is the time when you might need to revisit a foreign location or a foreign country, travel back to somewhere where you've already been, or if you're traveling somewhere new around this time period, around March 25th, it's going to feel so bizarrely familiar that you're going to just know that you've been there before, even though you haven't been there before, if you get what I'm saying. There's a past life connection to locations that you might either visit or connect with people who are from around this time period. There could also be new connections with teachers that feel familiar to you. It's like, I feel like I already actually know this person. I already have been here, done this with this person. This is so bizarre, but this is like a new connection I'm making, and this person is so wise, and I'm learning all these things. That could be part of this too. For Aquarius, whatever is going on right now in terms of your beliefs that are shifting, because this is the house of your philosophical and religious value systems, your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you, the things that frame your perspective on reality, and that is shifting. There's something being highlighted at the time of this full moon that you need to let go of, an old belief that's become too rigid or dogmatic, or that's throwing you off balance, that's not allowing you to move forward with new understanding or new knowledge. And that's going to throw you way more deeply into alignment with your integrity, so you can show up in the world as you truly are. And this doesn't just end here. There's a lot going on in the next few weeks, so make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss all the forecasts for a lot of different things that will be impacting you, especially that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, because that's happening in Taurus, and that's going to be squaring your ascendant, sun, or moon. So you're going to be having a lot of really shocking, really expansive, really exciting, but disruptive new opportunities coming up in the coming weeks as well. And then for Pisces and for Pisces rising. So for Pisces, there is a lot of change and transition going on here when it comes to your finances. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a disruptive thing. This full moon is highlighting the need to get yourself out of the weeds of it when it comes to the way that you're earning and saving your money, and to look at things kind of more broad scale. Look at how you can work with other people or other people's money to achieve your financial goals through things like investments, or, maybe there is something going on here where you're having to look at going into debt or taking out a loan in some way. That's not necessarily the worst thing, but if you are taking out a loan or going into debt, just know that this is not an energy that's going to be very predictable for you. So whatever you think the outcome is, there's something that's going to change it that you can't see just yet, and that might not be apparent until after the eclipse season. So just kind of have that in your awareness as you're deciding to do these things, but it's almost as if the decision has been taken away from you. Like whatever's going on financially is something that you just have to deal with right now. It could be that there's a loss of money coming because of bad investments. That could be part of this as well. But it looks like on the other side of things, you're building wealth through your own hard work, your own savings, your own effort. There could be something unexpected or transitionary that comes up involving taxes or inheritance or insurance payouts or other people's money right now. But there is an energy here where the tide is changing and things are shifting, where new opportunities are going to be coming up for you in the next few weeks financially, but you're having to let go of something, or maybe even, there's a loss of money because of paying off a debt or something along those lines too. But it looks like it's okay. Like things are going to come back into balance in the next few weeks. So if that is the case, definitely don't panic about it. But the big thing is that there are changes going on for you in terms of your material possessions. So maybe even big purchases that you're thinking about, or that might come up unexpectedly that you have to kind of jump on, or and just in general, your financial stability. There's something going on here that's shifting things for you. All right, and so that was my forecast for all 12 signs. And as promised, I want to give you a little bit of a preview of what's coming up in these next few weeks, as I have been alluding to throughout this entire forecast, because this is the forecast of the prelude, right? But the next forecast we're going to be doing, which will be released on March 23rd, so next Saturday, is all about Mercury retrograde in Aries. And this is so significant because this is a very activating Mercury retrograde for the eclipses, especially the Aries side of the eclipses. So on April 1st, Mercury will station to go retrograde in a conjunction with the North Node in Chiron. So the things that have been coming up for you in terms of awkwardness, discomfort, healing, and also the opportunities to come into your own as a healer that have occurred, especially at the end of February and start of March of this year, that's going to be amplified. There's some new information that's going to come to the forefront of your consciousness, of your awareness, that you're going to have to logically and reasonably work on and work through. It could come in the form of an actual message around this time period. It could come in the form of just a knowing or an idea. When it comes to this Mercury retrograde in Aries, there's something of fated importance that we're going to be visiting and revisiting. And there's something that we started or that was initiated around the time of that Chiron North Node conjunction that we need to renegotiate or redo in some way. There's something here where the plans that were laid out are not the plans that are going to be set in motion after Mercury goes direct at the end of April on April 25th. And so we will talk all about this. And this is just going to keep activating these bursts of eclipse energies where new developments related to the eclipse stuff that we're going to keep talking about for the next few weeks will come up and come up again. On March 30th, I'm going to be releasing my video on the solar eclipse in Aries. So again, make sure you're subscribed for that. But this is another big Chiron energy. So not only is this the reactivation of the North Node Chiron conjunction in a bigger, much more impactful way that has a reverberation that is collective, that is global, that impacts everybody. But this is the second eclipse in a series that is splitting across the United States, and that could cause a lot of disruption on a political or a socio-political sense, but also on a global scale. This is a time when we're also going to have a visible comet that will be near the sun at the time of the eclipse, which is very, very rare. Eclipses are always omens of big major changes when it comes to our collective experience, especially in the locations where they're visible. Comets are omens of change as well. This is the Pons-Brooks comet, and so it's going to actually be the closest to the sun on April 21st of 2024, around the same time as that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which brings powerful change and new innovations into our collective reality and awareness. But this is going to, again, be another energy that's symbolic of being an omen of change, of transition, of something new. The internet keeps calling this the Devil Comet or the Devil's Comet because when it was sighted last year, it appeared to have kind of like a shape like it had horns like the devil, but now it's turned into this sort of spiral. And so we'll talk about the symbolism behind all of that in the video that I'll be releasing on March 30th. It's very, very interesting, but the comet combination with the eclipse is huge, you guys. This is hugely significant. This will be a period of time that goes down in the history books. Not that, you know, anything that's been going on hasn't been in the past couple of years, but it's going to continue, and this is only going to escalate things in a way that is less predictable, I would say, than what we might think it would be. So the things that we think are going to be occurring are not what's going to be happening here. And then finally, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. This is already happening, you guys. I'm going to release my video on it on April 6th. I really should have done it sooner because we're already in the middle of this energy. New innovations, disruptive technologies. These are things that we could see on a collective level. And on an individual level, this brings disruptive but positive new opportunities where it feels like a lot. It can feel like a lot of chaos going on, a lot of shakeups happening in your life. But the end result of this are inevitably, this could feel like a lot of chaos going on, a lot of shakeups in our lives, but the end result of this is inevitably going to be positive for most people. This is the bright side, I would say, of all of the craziness going on, especially with the eclipse energies, which I think are going to be more disruptive in a less welcome way, because Jupiter is in the mix and Jupiter is the great benefic. And so this is beneficial, positive, that's Jupiter, right? Expansive, positive, beneficial, disruption, which is Uranus, change, which is Uranus, innovation, which is Uranus. Very easy to see that symbolism and how it's already starting to take hold on that collective level, but we're going to tackle how this is going to impact you more personally again on April 6th. So make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss out on that. And thank you so much for watching this video, you guys. Share it with your friends if you feel like they can benefit from what I just shared with you today to help them navigate. Let me know how you're navigating, how you're holding up down in the comments section below, and I will see you next week in my forecast for Mercury retrograde. Bye, everyone.